You might be surprised, but all across America, millions of people are making the very same mistake every single night without ever realizing it's quietly draining their health, memory, and zest for life. Just a harmless cup of tea before bed, that small familiar ritual can sometimes be the turning point, the one no doctor warns you about, the one you won't find on any medicine label. Why do we start to lose real sleep even when we're so tired we can barely stand? Who convinced us that tossing and turning through endless nights is just a normal part of growing older? And what if I told you that the tiniest shift in your nightly routine could open a door you thought was locked forever? My name is Mary, and I'm here to tell you my story, one a lot like yours. For years, I told myself it was just age. After all, once I hit 70, wasn't it normal to sleep poorly, wake up exhausted, and face each new morning with a heavy heart? That's what people said. I learned to accept restless nights, anxious thoughts, and those empty hours before dawn. But one morning I looked in the mirror and realized I wasn't living anymore. I was just getting by. My nights had turned into a strange kind of marathon. I'd drift off for maybe an hour or two, then snap awake, groggy, frustrated, never fully rested. The mornings became a test of survival. Coffee provided no pep, my energy evaporated before noon, and activities I once loved felt like chores. Each day started with a kind of silent dread. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the tired face staring back, but that's only the first blow. There came a time when I honestly couldn't remember the last time I woke up feeling refreshed, not just awake, but actually full of life, clear-headed, ready to move and do and be myself. Maybe it was 10 years earlier, maybe even longer. At 82, I had begun to fear mornings themselves. Real sleep had slipped away gradually, like water leaking from your hands. First, I'd wake partway through the night, unable to get comfortable again. I blamed late dinners, street noise outside, the endless stress of life. But over time, I saw the truth. My body had forgotten how to rest. I didn't know how to let go, how to greet the night as a friend instead of an enemy. I'd listen to every sound in the dark, count my heartbeats, let worry spiral through my mind. Lying there, I thought, I guess this is just what getting older is. Days blurred. Forgetfulness, irritability, apathy crept in. Some mornings I'd just stare at the screen, words making no sense, angry at my own slowness and tiredness, wondering where the old me had gone. Worse, it felt as if my whole life was fading from within, like I'd become an observer of someone else's story. I became afraid of my own evenings, knowing another battle waited in the dark. Loneliness, anxiety, the sense of helplessness, they all grew heavier as the hours dragged by. And the cruelest part? It wasn't disease or heartbreak, but a steady loss of sleep that changed everything. No one ever warned me it could happen. No one explained what to do about it. I just accepted it, like so many do. After all, isn't sleeplessness just a part of getting older? But somewhere inside, a stubborn little spark kept glimmering. Maybe there was another way. Maybe, if I kept looking, I could find another answer beyond pills, gimmicks, or giving in. It's funny, looking back, how deeply I believed that just being tired would guarantee deep sleep. Year after year, I clung to that hope. Maybe one day, sheer exhaustion would finally knock me out for good. But it doesn't work like that, does it? Especially after 60, when your body just won't obey old rules anymore and every evening becomes a test of patience. Patience. I blamed all the usual suspects, late dinners, city noise, the stress that never seemed to let up, but quietly I wondered if something inside me had just broken down for good. What no one told me, what almost no doctor bothers to explain, is that sleep isn't simply a matter of closing your eyes and waiting. Age changes everything, your rhythms, your hormones, even the way your brain shuts out the world at night. The very things meant to lull you into restful sleep, like that cup of tea, a late-night TV show, reading endless headlines, can become exactly what throws you off your natural track. The truth is, getting older doesn't have to mean giving up on rest. Our bodies only ask for new habits, a little compassion, and a different set of signals than before. That's why, for me, it all began to change on a perfectly ordinary Saturday, one when I'd barely gotten 3 hours of desperate, broken sleep. I didn't plan anything special. I just wandered down to the farmer's market, hoping a walk in the morning air might shake some of the fog away. There, of all places, I caught a fleeting scent, a gentle, earthy whiff that zipped me straight back to childhood summers. It wasn't the fresh bread or the fruit stands. It was something softer, wilder, so real I could almost feel the grass under my feet. Black marker lettering on a handmade label, neat little bags of dried herbs, tended by a silver-haired woman whose eyes saw straight through the morning crowds. I didn't grill her for credentials or press for promises. I simply picked up one bag, drawn to its calming hint of lemon balm and valerian. At home, I steeped a spoonful in warm water, letting the aroma rise in swirling steam, no phone in hand, no TV flickering in the corner, just quiet and hope. I didn't expect a miracle. Part of me had stopped believing that magic solutions even existed. But that first evening, sitting in silence, a shaky little hope flickered somewhere inside, like the first ray of sunrise after a stormy night. No, I didn't drift off right away. That first night, there was no sudden transformation. But for the first time in months, there was no panic in my chest as I woke in the darkness. I didn't rush for water, didn't scroll for distraction, didn't fight my own mind. I simply laid my head back and, astonishingly, slept again. Not the sleep of the young, but something warmer, safer, like my body finally believed it was safe enough to let go. By the third night, something pivotal shifted. I woke after 6 uninterrupted hours, not groggy or numb, but clear. It wasn't a miracle, just a respite, a tiny win in a long battle. And I realized sometimes all it takes is one gentle shift to let the light in. The changes crept in quietly. I kept up my nightly ritual, preparing a cup of herbal tea. No gradients or fancy packaging, just patient intention and a little curiosity. As the days went by, my rule was simple: no skipping, no half-hearted effort, no putting it off for something easier like sleeping pills. Along with the tea, I dimmed the lights, muted the noise, stepped away from the news and screens. I practiced just being present with myself, with my breath, with the warm mug in my hands. Little by little, my sleep deepened. The morning headaches faded, that dragging, heavy feeling began to lift, and I found myself reaching, for the first time in years, toward the things that made me feel alive. Walking in the park, calling old friends, savoring the taste of breakfast on my tongue. I could focus again, think straight, listen fully, even smile for no reason. It was as if, piece by piece, I was resurfacing from a long, gray winter. But let me be clear, it wasn't just about the tea. It wasn't any one ingredient or a magic recipe. It was the building of an evening ritual that spoke to my body in a language it could finally understand. Night after night, I sent the same message: you're safe now, you can rest. And that steady repetition, as gentle as a lullaby, turned into the foundation of my recovery. If this sounds familiar, if you see yourself in these words, keep listening. Because the changes I made can work for anyone, no matter what you've tried and how many false starts you've weathered. Some folks believe that getting older means surrendering your independence, your flexibility, your very ability to shape your own days and nights. I used to think the same. But I know now firsthand that with restful, restorative sleep, the old rhythm of your mind and body can return, sometimes more fully than you even remember. It was during that third week of my ritual that I noticed a remarkable change. No longer did I dread approaching nightfall. Instead, my evenings became a gentle invitation, soft light, the comfort of my own quiet rituals, the small promise of peace. I found myself reaching less for caffeine or sugar to fake alertness and instead savoring a sense of calm energy that lasted long after sunrise. Mornings grew easier too. For the first time in a decade, I woke not in a haze, but with a bright sense of presence that lasted. I'd greet my breakfast with appetite, noticing the taste of scrambled eggs, the warmth of bread, the crispness of an apple. I read the paper and found myself following each line without drifting, remembering the news without having to read it twice. Even conversations with friends became lighter, with fewer moments lost or words slipping out of reach. What surprised me most was the ripple effect. Good sleep gave me the courage to try gentle exercise again. I could walk farther, enjoy the breeze, watch the leaves change, and actually remember those colors. My balance improved. My fears of stumbling late at night faded as my energy came back in earnest. The temptation to stay put indoors, to see the world through a window, slowly lifted away, replaced by genuine curiosity and motivation. But restoring sleep didn't just clear my mind and revive my body. It began to softly mend old wounds inside, the fatigue and frustration that had built up after years of tossing and turning. I found myself laughing more even at silly things, a neighbor's dog in a sweater, a favorite old movie, the sound of rain on the roof at 5 in the morning. Things that once annoyed me became background noise. I felt tolerant, even content, and sometimes found myself humming as I made the bed, cleaning or tidying up with a gentle lightness I thought had disappeared forever. Friends noticed too. You look different, they'd say. Did you get your hair done? I'd smile and shake my head. No, just sleeping better, that's all. The truth is, the restoration that started at night slowly spread throughout the daylight, making each moment a little brighter and more bearable. Maybe most important of all was the return of genuine self-care, not the kind imposed by doctors or dietitians, but a real desire from within to treat myself kindly. I watched what I ate, not as a punishment, but as a way to nourish my recovered body. When I felt little sparks of anxiety, I paused, took a slow breath, and remembered the old, patient ritual that brought me back to myself. The more consistently I protected my evening hours, the easier it became to shrug off small emergencies, to forgive mistakes, to hope, and even plan for tomorrow. Now, this isn't to say every night is perfect. We all face tough weeks, unspent stress, disruptions, tough news, or the simple mess of daily life. But I know with real certainty that a good night's recovery is never truly out of reach. If the rhythm gets lost, I can always return to my ritual, the gentle tea, the dim light, the deep breaths, and my body, with a little patience, always remembers the way home. Restoring sleep, you see, isn't only about health, it's about identity. Because when you're constantly exhausted, you aren't yourself. You become reactive, withdrawn, and out of focus. But when sleep returns, so do you, patient, clear, present, and, most important, alive. Once I understood that sleep could really return, and with it, everything I thought was lost, I became determined not to slip back into old habits. I realized for the first time that true rest isn't an accident. It's a skill, a gentle discipline, something to be rebuilt piece by piece with care and patience. I started looking deeper, not just at the ritual of the evening tea, but at every part of my nighttime routine. I made my bedroom a sanctuary. Each evening, as 8 o'clock approached, I switched off the harsh ceiling lights, settling instead for a small, gentle table lamp, or even a string of soft golden lights draped along the window. It was no extravagant act, just an offering of calm to myself. I lowered every sound. The days of leaving the TV on until the last possible minute were over. Instead, I let soft music drift in the background, or simply opened the window to welcome in the quiet sounds of the night, birds settling, a distant train, or the hum of city life falling asleep. A surprising thing I learned, self-permission is powerful. During the final moments of the day, I sat quietly, taking 5 long, peaceful breaths and repeating to myself, that's enough for today. I did what I could. 是3创世是100year, 身体 tomorrow is another start. Tonight, I rest. This short reflection, this deliberate endpoint to my day, sent a clear signal to my nervous system. It was no longer fight or flight, it was simply time to let go. As part of my routine, I even kept a small notebook by the bed. Before turning in, I jotted down lingering thoughts, worries, or little victories from the day. putting my thoughts onto paper lifted the heaviness from my mind. I wasn't forced to carry everything inside any longer. With that, I could close the notebook, turn out the light, and allow the unfinished business of life to wait until morning. I created a rule for myself: no conflicts, no complex conversations, and absolutely no revisiting old hurts or disappointments after 8:30. Nighttime was for renewal, not for wrestling with problems that could only grow heavier in the darkness. Evening meals became lighter and simpler. No sweets, no fruit, no coffee or black tea after 8, not even a slice of bread with honey. Instead, warm water or a small herbal tea, sometimes just a glass of plain water if I was truly hungry. This single change alone meant I fell asleep faster and woke less in the night, my body finally learning to wind itself down instead of running behind a curtain of sugar, caffeine, or unanswered questions from the day. Sometimes, if I felt especially tense, I would take a warm, not hot, bath with a pinch of sea salt or a drop of lavender oil. 15 minutes, that's all. The water seemed to melt the tension in my muscles and settle my thoughts, so that when I slipped into bed, it was with a certain hopefulness instead of dread. I paid special attention to noise and darkness. I learned that true peace comes not from locking out every sound, but from letting the house wind down with me. Windows closed, lights dim, phone set aside, no notifications, no vibrations. Once in a while, I listened to recordings of soft rain or wind in the treetops. No storylines, no news, just gentle rhythm guiding my mind toward sleep. And all of these elements, air, light, gentle sound, steady breath, simple routine, and the soothing effect of the nighttime tea work together as a bridge from day into night. The rituals didn't just help with sleep. The ritual help. They rebuilt the very connection between my mind, my heart, and the body I was learning to trust again. This wasn't about striving for perfection or expecting to become 20 again. It was about listening, slowing down, and honoring the passage of each evening as a precious doorway to renewal. I wish someone had told me all this years earlier, that it's not about being heroic or pushing through one more sleepless week, but about learning to respect your own limits and needs. That a simple ritual, kept faithfully, could pull me back from the edge and hand me back the mornings I thought were lost forever. That's when I began to appreciate the power of patience and the necessity of faith in small, steadfast actions. It wasn't just the tea, or even the details of the ritual, though each one mattered. It was the gentle trust I rebuilt in my own capacity to change. So many years I'd thought recovery needed something dramatic, a doctor's order, a pill, a breakthrough out of reach. But the real solution was quiet, humble, and already in my hands: consistency, self-respect, and a willingness to nurture myself the way I'd care for a child or a friend. There were moments of doubt along the way, times when I thought the old fog would never lift, that my body would snap back to sleeplessness at the tiniest setback. But the more I honored my evening routine, the more resilient I became. A bad night here or there no longer knocked me off course. I now knew I could trust my body to recover if only I kept returning to my rhythm. I realized, too, that setbacks aren't failures, just tiny reminders to pay attention again. And as my sleep grew deeper and more reliable, so too did my capacity for gratitude. Ordinary mornings, once a blur of fatigue and complaint, became new territory for appreciation. I found joy in the slice of sunlight across the kitchen table, the first sip of warm water, the feeling of clear lungs as I opened the window to greet another day. The more I noticed these gifts, the more I wanted to protect them, to treat each night as sacred, each morning as a reason for celebration. The people around me felt the change. Family asked what had shifted. Friends wondered what secret I'd found. And I told them it isn't about radical difference, but about quiet revolution, the daily act of honoring your own need for peace. The evening tea, the warm light, the soft music, the freedom from screens and worry, each element is a promise to yourself that restoration is possible at any stage of life. And as I gained confidence, I started sharing, not just my routine, but the hope that real sleep, the kind that makes a person whole, can return. years of unrest. Yes, I faced skepticism. Yes, some doubted just tea could change a life. But I could point to the evidence, not in a laboratory, but in my own reflection, my laughter, the spring in my step. Before long, friends began reporting back, sometimes hesitantly, sometimes with joyful surprise. I slept right through the night for the first time in years. For once, I woke up hungry, not heavy. Even my patience is coming back. I felt not only vindicated but deeply connected to others like me, who had accepted tiredness as the price of aging, but who now found, through ritual and attention, a way back to themselves. So, if you are listening now and your own story echoes mine, know that give up is not the only choice. You have options. You can build your own bridge back to rest and renewal with whatever tools and comforts speak to your soul. My story is here to prove that you need not surrender to restless nights, no matter your age. In a moment, I'll share a few common missteps people make when building their new nighttime routines. Little errors that, once corrected, unlike even deeper healing. Because this isn't just my journey, it can be yours too. Sleep, I realized, had stolen much more than just my nights. It robbed me of bright mornings, of the desire to rise, of patience, of the simple pleasures in food, in conversation, in laughter with loved ones. It blurred the days together into one endless gray loop that felt inescapable. For a long time, I convinced myself that it was just old age. What did I expect, really? That as long as I didn't hurt, I was doing fine. But deep inside, I knew that was a lie. Turning's maturity, I discovered, isn't about suffering through sleepless nights or dull, joyless mornings. It's about clarity. It's about rhythm and peace and the kind of steady hope that lets you look forward to both sunrise and sunset. When I finally came back to deep, natural sleep, not a broken, drugged slumber, but a restorative surrender, I rediscovered myself. Not the younger me, but the real me, the one who could listen, observe, care, and feel. The one who was patient and thoughtful, who didn't forget why she'd come into a room or lose her sense of direction halfway through a sentence. Good sleep let me be present again, not just for others, but for myself. That's what I wish for you, more than anything. Sleep isn't just a gap between days. It's your nightly chance to press reset. So Ise yu ibesh shanairash. It's not a privilege for the young, it's the birthright of anyone who's alive, whatever age, whatever the calendar says. If you lose that foundation, everything else crumbles, but once you reclaim it, piece by piece, life comes back together. So if you're still here with me, reading my words or listening to my story, it means you are searching. You still have a spark of hope left, and that means anything is possible. Change isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's a cup of herbal tea, a lamp switched to warm light, a screen turned off an hour before bed, a ritual you perform faithfully until your body trusts again. Sometimes it's nothing more than the decision you deserve to rest, to wake feeling like yourself again, with energy, curiosity, and peace. And if that first spark hasn't dimmed, let me tell you, it's closer than you think. It might be in the simplest place, a handwritten bag of tea, a memory of calm, a new habit begun tonight. You don't need to surrender to sleeplessness. You don't need to grow older in fear or fog. You can come back to real mornings, to clear-headed days, to evenings that bring comfort instead of worry. It starts with your choice, your small acts of care and consistency, and your willingness to build that bridge back to yourself, one gentle step, one restful night, one sunrise at a time. Now, if my story stirred something in you, I want to hear from you. Please pause for a moment and leave your name and where you're watching from, whether you're in Tucson, Salem, Albany, Amarillo, or any corner of this vast land. Seeing your comments, sharing this space, reminds us all healing is never solitary. It belongs to anyone brave enough to say yes to change, to hope, and to a brand new morning. You are not alone, and you never were.